Welcome to Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. I'm your host, Sadia, and this is my mother, Ema. Hey, Ema.
Hello, sweetness.
Yeah, talking about babies, you might see me go ahead and, off screen, feel like taking care of something. It's because I'm taking care of my little baby, make sure he's A-okay. Um, but you were telling me a story about some chubby little kid, and you had to.
Yeah, what happened was I was working as a preschool assistant today, and one of the teachers who's in charge through circumstances totally, not on her own doing, unfortunately, had to be late. So when she came and usually she drops off her baby at um at this baby care that's near us. And she starts teaching. Well, what happened was she could not. What happened was she came right to the classroom because she was late. She wanted to start the program, so she asked me if I could start the program, and she's going to take her baby to the baby care. And I said, "Wait a minute." I said, "Let me do it. You can start your program." So she goes, "Okay." So I think it's a little baby. How much could it weigh? So I took this baby up 2 flights of steps to where the babysitter was. And I get there, and the babysitter looks at me and says, "You better sit down and rest." Yeah. I sit down. I sat for a while to catch my breath. I go back to the preschool room, and the mother, I said, I apologize to the mother for being so late. I said, but I had to just sit and rest for a while. And she says to me, and she goes to me, "I don't blame you." Says, "That kid weighs 70 pounds. I
Yeah,
said,
that's.
"What?" I didn't realize I carried 70 pounds of baby up 2 flights of steps.
I remember weighing 70 pounds. That's what I'm saying. That's a little crazy. I remember being 70 pounds. I think I was in fifth grade. This kid's supposed to be, what, 8 months?
Something. If I heard her, I hope I heard. I don't know if I heard her correctly or
Maybe
not.
17 pounds?
Something, you might be right. That would make more sense.
Yeah, that kind of would make more sense because 70 pounds. I hit the gym
I think
today.
you were right. I think you're right. She
And
probably said 17. And
yeah, 70 pounds is pretty hefty and would be like the kid's diabetic, God forbid, like something's up, you know.
All I know is, wow, it was a good workout. I don't need to lift weights.
Well, it was funny because I remember there's a kid down our block. Ruthie and I saw him when he was a little kid, and we used to call him Diobito after Family Guy's skit because he looked like really Zoftic. And then it's been about 5 years since we've seen him. So
Mhm.
we see him all the time, and we look at him, and the kid looks pretty trim, but his face is very blown up. And I'm like, I think that kid had some steroid issues where he's taking medications that he has to be a certain weight. But I see him, the kid, the rest of his body's trim, but his face is just blown up. It's just a very big face. So
Interesting.
yeah, because the kid we saw him first probably he was 6 or 7, and then now he's 11 or 12, and that's kind of something where it's just I even remember this one story. Well, it was a video that went viral back in the day. It was this cute chubby kid singing this little gumdrop song, "You're my shookums, apple of my eye." It's a cute little song. My friend Shmuley showed it to me, and then I was reading the comments. I was curious about it, so I looked into it later on. Turns out the kid had some medical issue that he had to take steroids that blew up his face. And he eventually passed away.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, so that's just a little morbid. I was just like, whoa. So whenever I see kids being very hefty, I feel like there's something. But 17 pounds makes more sense than 70 pounds.
I think I heard her wrong. I probably heard her wrong. Yeah. That would make a lot more sense. Yeah. I remember when I was thinking about getting all that exercise, taking this kid up the steps. I remember when you kids were littles, they came out with a baby and mommy exercise some programs where a mother could bring her baby, and they would actually show you exercises that you do while holding your baby, like go like this with your feet, go like that, up and down, and almost like using your own kid as a weight.
Yeah, I remember.
Was it something called Mommy and Me, something like that? I think there's a certain exercise program called Mommy and Me.
I mean, I only remember when I was a kid, you getting me, because I used to see you get all these exercise movies from the library, and then you got me an exercise movie, and I used to watch it, and like I was a guy who trying to get kids to move around, and I remember one being The Caterpillar, where it's about getting down like on all fours and trying to like wiggle around and then standing all the way up, and like I think it's very interesting where kids really look up to their parents when they're a young age, and you've got to be very careful of how you act at that time, because they're just going to copy you, and that's really where it gets to me, where I'm thinking to myself, like, I listen to certain music that I know like isn't appropriate for kids, so like when I come home, I try to listen to like the Nigunim, the klezmer music, try as much Jewish music as possible, some classic oldies from the 60s and 70s, maybe like some modern music that's more appropriate.
Well, there's a lot of people, like very frum people, and met a lot of Chabadniks who will only permit nigunim, the kids listen to nigunim in general and in their house. That's all that they will permit, not even classical. And there is a Hasidic idea, there's a Kabbalistic idea that music has a spiritual quality, and that Hasidic music is very good for the neshama. And I admire those people, believe me, but I'm the type of person, I'm not a purist. You know what I mean? I'm kind of a middle of the road person. And unless I really enjoy music, I enjoy classical music, I enjoy a lot of rock music. And unless the rock music is really, really like X-rated, like really trashy, I don't, I will listen to it. I just, I feel, I feel in my case, sometimes I need to unwind and relax. And sometimes sometimes I'll listen to that music. I'm not, sometimes I feel like, that I admire those people that are on that level, but that's not going to say it. That's not me. That sound like,
I think what it is is like I was even speaking to Ruthie about some stuff today, but it's just like, I know my limitations and I know what's difficult for me to do. A friend of ours doesn't like, covering her hair, and I can't argue with her or blame it, because I personally love non-Jewish music. If someone told me that I can't not listen to non-Jewish music, I would tell them no. Music in general, like when I was sitting Shiva for Tati, I had to use some kind of heter to like listen to non-recording music. I didn't go to concerts, I didn't go places, but sorry, hold on one second. You can't see him, can you?
Not now. So I saw him when you picked him up.
You saw? Okay, that's fine. Okay. I'm just trying to give him some privacy.
Keep him out of the limelight.
Exactly. I don't want to make him a star. But the thing is that like I understand the frustration, because some parts of Judaism, the rules themselves are very difficult. They're very difficult. And for the average person, I can't tell them that it's easy. And a lot of people find it frustrating and annoying and really bothersome.
Well, there is a Kabbalistic idea that gives, like Rabbi Yitzhak Luria said that we all have recycled neshamas, that we keep getting, gilgulim, that we keep getting recycled until all 630 mitzvahs are performed correctly. And he says, if there's a mitzvah that you find very, very difficult, that is the one you have to work on, because that's the one that the neshama, that the people before you kind of fouled up on.
Yeah.
And now it's your job to try to perfect that.
Well, I was even talking about how, like, when I was a kid, there was a neighbor of ours who technically speaking, Shomer Nagia starts at 9 years old. And
Mhm.
so I remember being like 9 years old, and a girl that was my age, that was a neighbor of ours, told me that I can't. She probably misunderstood, but what she told me was she can't play with me, she can't go near me, she can't talk to me because I'm a
Mhm.
boy, and that upset me a lot. But
Mhm.
looking back, I realized the importance of what it is to instill in yourself like a self-respect, especially at that age, just to stay away from predators, so to speak. you know it's like I have my space. But like you and Tati never talked about that in regards to Shomer Nagia when we were 9. I mean, you might have talked about it a little bit when we were like maybe 13,
Yeah,
maybe,
we're
but
teenagers. Yes. Mhm.
teenagers. But even then, it was more of like just the practical parts of just being careful with the opposite sex, and being careful with you know who you are, and what you are really as like a boy or a girl. I
Mhm.
remember hearing you guys say for both of us, the boy or girl. Boy starts with B that rhymes with T that stands for trouble. Or
You know where I got that from?
it's from
The
a
Music
musical,
Man.
right? The Music
It was
Man.
from the Music Man. About the pool hall. That's pool. That's rhymes with. That's P. That's P that rhymes with T that stands for trouble. Oh, we got trouble right here in River City. That's trouble with a T that rhymes with P that stands for pool. That stands for pool.
Oh wow, I
So
know
that's
you.
where I got it from. I said, oh, we got trouble in Baltimore City. That's trouble with a T that rhymes with B. That stands for boy. Sing to your sisters.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because it's just like I was having this conversation with Ruthie and talking about people that have sex before marriage, and the idea that like saving yourself is important. And then being if somebody saved themselves and the other person didn't, how do you handle that frustration
Mhm.
of I did all this work, I cared enough, and here I'm really into this person, I want to have a relation with them, and they clearly didn't think of that, and it is so important, then what what is it to me, or should I have wasted my time? You know?
Listen, you can't control other people's lives, but you can only control your own. And you did the right thing. In in the major religions of the world, um, sex is usually relegated to marriage. And listen, I saw the deleterious effects among friends of mine who decided to become sexually active outside of marriage. And all I can say is that when people talk about saving themselves, you bet, man, you're saving yourself from trouble. That's what you're saving yourself from.
That starts with
Because
T, that stands for trouble.
I saw friends of mine just, I didn't see, I did not see anybody benefit in any way, shape, or form from that free love lifestyle. It was, it was misery.
Well, I
It
think
was
it's
trouble. It
ironic.
was misery. It was disaster.
I think it's ironic that the free love lifestyle right afterwards brought AIDS and other like STD issues. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Oh, sure. Seems logical.
it's just the thing is
Mm-hmm.
that the conversation, and I've had this conversation with multiple people, and the conversation usually goes like this. You know, well, I saved myself for marriage. I felt it was important.
Uh-huh.
You didn't. What? Why? What happened? And then the initial response is, oh, it meant nothing. Oh, it's just this. It's just that. Oh, don't worry about it. And interestingly enough, I don't think that's the right answer. And it's an initial reaction because they don't want to admit that they got duped, so to speak.
Absolutely. Especially girls. Girls don't realize that, guys use women
Yeah.
for free sex. They do. And for a girl to fall in love with a man and she thinks he loves her too, and then to look back and realize that, honey, you've been duped, you've been used. That's devastating.
That's what's interesting with nowadays, though. Nowadays, they're trying to like flip the script where women should be in control and have power through sex, and therefore have as many sexual partners as they want, and therefore it shows that they're really in control of their relationship because they're the ones that are now the I don't care kind of people, and trying to be sex positive in that aspect. And I think it's funny because it's just like it's a natural crash and burn. It's a natural crash
Mhm.
and burn.
Now the funny thing was, what I don't understand. In fact, that's funny. I was thinking about it today. Was when the women's, it was when I was in college. Was when the big women's liberation movement started.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about it was, oh, men have enjoyed sexual freedom over all these centuries, and now women should, be on the same caliber. And I thought to myself, wait a minute. Has it ever occurred to you that maybe women had the right idea to begin with about the idea of not having sex until marriage? Maybe this was the right idea, and maybe men should come around to the correct idea that women have had for centuries.
But their idea is they feel like they're not going to win the fight, so they might as well like flip the script.
It's not going to work.
It's like, oh, it never does. That's what's so funny. You're talking about the new age feminism of the 70s,
Mhm.
and they're still trying to do it today. They're still trying to do it today. And they're trying to flip the script, and they're trying to make this whole point of the sex positive attitude and all this stuff. And it's like, all of these ideologies, I mean, are just going to go full circle. That's why I don't care to have an argument or a conversation with people when they get into those modes of like, well, we could be this, that, and all these sexual things and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, you can do whatever you want. There's just going to be a natural reaction to what's going on.
And lots of consequences.
Yeah, there's consequences. It's like, I don't need to wear a condom. Why do I have to wear a condom? Why are you telling me what to do?
Yeah.
Well, great. Go right ahead, do it.
What I have to laugh about is whenever I read these articles that are pro-abortion, it goes into these sad stories about such and such found herself pregnant. I go, what? What do you mean you found yourself pregnant? Was there semen in the air? Come on.
Probably on her face.
Come on. What do you mean you found yourself pregnant? Come on, lady. Admit you were sexually active, and this was the result.
The thing is, however, and I'm realizing this now, is that some people are really just stupid. And if they're and those people need to start getting abortions because they're just not good enough to raise a child, I guess, because they're so stupid. I mean, that's the argument, right? That's the abortion argument.
Who had that argument
Who?
about stupid people shouldn't have children?
Hitler.
The Nazis.
No, what I'm saying is like,
it was
like
their
that's
idea
that's
to euthanize or abort, have to euthanize people that were or castrate or sterilize people that were below a certain intelligence level.
well, well, sadly, that's what the original abortion clinics were actually in the lower income Black communities because the person was racist.
She was a racist, right?
She wanted to destroy the Black community, and she put in abortion clinics.
Yes,
and she sadly was successful. Just like the LBJ's program. What was it called? Not the Great New Deal,
Great
but like
Society.
Great Society.
Yeah, could not have the man in the house. It destroyed the Black family.
Destroyed it.
And the irony was that people don't realize LBJ was one of your big when he was in the Senate, he was against any civil rights laws.
Yeah.
He totally led the charge against civil rights in general. And now all of a sudden, as a Democrat, he becomes this big liberal. Yeah, right.
You can't trust any politicians. It's the other thing also is I follow this one politician online, and he is a Democrat, but he's a Southern Democrat, so it's a different kind of like vibe. And he explains the whole process of being a politician and being a senator and being a congressman. I think he's a congressman. And he explains all of these laws. And when he does it, I'm realizing that, you hear these votes about like, they just passed, Baruch Hashem, but not Baruch Hashem, whatever, it's debatable. The military aid to Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan. They just passed it.
But but the Senate passed it, but a lot of people are saying it's still on arrival in the House of Representatives.
Well, to be honest, on some level, good, because a lot of this foreign aid isn't foreign aid. Oh,
It's bakshish.
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 What's bakshish?
Bakshish is in India for bribes. Yeah.
It's not bribes. It's not bribe. Well,
so?
they're chains. They're leashes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, America gives Israel $4 billion a year. Israel's GDP is like close to 500 billion. They don't need the money, but they still give it to them as some kind of leash that they have on Israel, trying to pull some shtick. And they do the same thing. Yeah. They do the same thing to all other countries and all that stuff. So there's a lot of people, a lot of Republicans, you know, are like, we should not be going ahead. By the way, he's on view, is he?
You know what?
Hold on one second. Sorry about the airtime.
Okay.
Yeah. So, what was I talking about? Foreign
We're
aid.
talking about the foreign aid is really like a leash, like
yeah.
So the United States can kind of like
yes.
How can I say pull shtick, pull rank,
pull strings, pull rank,
yeah.
pull whatever.
Yeah.
But
Makes sense.
There's also another thing there is that, like, and this is what this congressman was talking about. You might have a bill that will have, like, talking about topic A that everyone agrees with, and then some congressman will sneak in topic B.
Yes.
And then then the people that want to vote for topic A will not vote for topic A because of topic B, and then withhold their vote or vote no. So, like, that's why whenever I hear these like statements of like, oh, Senator blah 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 voted no on this thing that's pro-Israel. Oh, he must be anti-Israel. Like, I always double guess with that because I'm like, I bet you $5 something sneaky was in the bill that he's like, no, and he was disagreeing with. So that's why
I've heard of them doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not too worried about it. I'm really not. You know, it's just right now, like, with there's Chris Van Hollen. I don't know how he's the if I'm not mistaken, he's the senator in Maryland, and he was giving this, like, speech or whatnot, very anti-Israel, calling it like a typical rhetoric of genocide, blah 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 blah. And I got, like, there was all this other stuff where people were saying, like, oh, we need to send him an email, yada yada. Like, here, U.S. Senator Chris Van Hollen accuses Israel of war crimes. Hold on a second. I apologize. War crimes, Operation Gaza, strip during comments on the Senate floor. It just, like, typical rhetoric, like, it's just
and Iran doesn't have war crimes. Iraq doesn't have war crimes. Saudi Arabia doesn't have war. Yeah, sure. And what else is new?
Yeah, and
you know, I have to laugh though about Maryland. Is that, you know, now I live in a Republican conservative, basically a Republican state.
Yeah.
But I'm living in Maryland, and the joke about Maryland is you have two types of Democrats in Maryland. You have liberal Democrats and conservative Democrats. And I remember after I switched parties, because I felt the Democrats did not reflect my values, I went to go vote, and the lady saw my voting card. And so she says, okay, she's got to look. They get this card. They give you this card, and you present it to the next person at the next station so that you can feed it in the computer. She opens up the box, all these white cards, Democrat. In the middle of those white cards, she pulls my card out right away. The one pink card, one in the whole box.
Yeah.
And just those, but how ignorant people are is amazing, because when I told, one of my neighbors was complaining that she didn't like the Democratic Party, yada yada, she wished she could switch. I said, well, why don't you? She goes, I didn't know you could. I said, yes, I switched. She goes, what did you do? I said nothing. I just called Board of Election Supervisors, asked them, told them I wanted to switch parties. They sent me a form in the mail that was very simple to fill out: name, address, party affiliation. That was it. Sent it in. And she said, I never knew I could even do that. I noticed something about schools in general, that schools, when it comes to teaching very practical things that we need, they really dropped the ball. Because I remember the first time I wrote a check, I didn't know I had to sign the check. That's how bad my practical money education was from school, that they never taught us how to really write a check and sign up what you have, what you do to make a check.
It's funny though, like when it comes to education in like high school versus college versus whatever, I don't know, like we've talked about this on previous podcasts, the idea that just letting things go of the educational system in for high school, they're not very practical anymore.
Right.
And like they don't have home ec, which is something that I feel like is very important. And I was lucky enough where I didn't.
One home ec, everybody just drives to McDonald's and gets their dinner.
It's just, I just think it's, I don't know. It's the typical situation where it's just like everyone complains about the same thing of like, high school, you don't teach anything. College doesn't teach you anything. It's all a farce. I'm like, yeah, it kind of is. And you kind of have to go ahead and Google everything and YouTube everything and figure it out that way. And luckily we have that capability. It's just, you don't know how to write a check. Google, how do I write a check?
Yeah.
You can't have any reason for stupidity, so to speak. Like you could figure it out. It's fine. But
this woman didn't even know that she had the right to switch parties if she wanted. Imagine.
That sounds like some 1984 stuff, if you ask me. It's just the whole thing of like, oh, I did like I don't know if I could vote. I don't know. Maybe she was just pulling your leg.
No, she was serious.
Really?
She was serious. She had no, and not just her. I spoke to there are other people who have no idea that they have the right to switch parties wherever and whenever they want. It's very like now you do it online. It's even simpler.
That's kind of odd. They don't know that.
Right? Be surprised me. People, people don't do their homework. I remember when Dukakis was running, and one of my neighbors, we had so many Jewish neighbors. Oh, they're going to vote Dukakis. They're going to go to Dukakis because his wife is Jewish. Well, his wife claimed to be Jewish. It was kind of questionable, but she claimed to be Jewish. So, Dukakis's campaign once called me to say, "Hey, we're representing Dukakis. We hope you vote for him." So I said, "How does your candidate feel about the situation, the Palestinian-Israeli situation?" And the woman said she didn't know, but if I give her my address, they'll send me a printout, like telling me exactly how. And at that time, this was before the computer.
Yeah.
You could do this on any issue. You would just call the campaign office, ask them how your candidate feels about whatever issue it is, and they would send you a whole printout. She sends me the printout. He was for a Palestinian state. So I showed this to some of my Jewish neighbors. They were shocked. They said, "How'd you get this information?" I said, I asked the campaign headquarters when they called me how Dukakis felt about the Israeli situation, and they said they would give me a print. I said, "You can do this with any candidate." I go, "Really?"
Yeah. I think nowadays people, I hate to say it, because what? I just saw an interview of this. There was this woman who.
Ouch!
Oh, you just got bit?
Cat.
The cat just bit you? Scratched you?
She bit me. She was licking my hand and then she bit me.
Oh, I hate it when that happens. Yeah, I'll take care of it.
When you want to show your tush to the public, get your tail down.
Go on, get. I tell you. Okay, the point I was trying to make was, I saw this interview. There was this musician, and she was like a hip hop artist, whatever, and she was getting an interview done by this woman, and this woman's like, "Oh, so like," she's like, "What do you do? Do you make music? Oh, then you're a musician." And she's like, "I'm not a musician." She's like, and the lady's like, but you make music. She's like, yeah, I make music, but I'm not a musician. I'm not gonna like. I'm like, she's like, what?
Uh,
And it
uh-huh.
turns out she thought musician was like magician, and it was a whole thing. And like the interview is like, oh my god, you're like that stupid.
Well,
Wow.
I saw an interview with AOC
Yeah.
where it was a female journalist who was asking her about Israel and the Palestinians, and she asked her a question about the history of Israel, and AOC just giggled and said, "I'm sorry, I don't know anything about the history of Israel." Lady, you're voting on bills that
It's
concern foreign, like foreign aid bills,
at-
and you know nothing about the history of one of our closest allies in the Middle East.
you know that's not true, Ima. You know she's just trying to avoid the question.
But it was like a factual, it was a very simple question about the history
and
of it.
that's how they plead the fifth.
I mean, this
I don't know.
smile and giggle.
Because they're vile women. They are vile, vile women. Her and Ilhan Omar and all these other people, they're vile, vile people.
Mm-hmm.
They voted against the bill that was going to say that anybody who's affiliated with Hamas is a terrorist, and they voted against that. They don't care about Jews. They don't care about Israel, and they'll say whatever they can to keep their votes.
Well, you know,
raging anti-Semites.
But you know what? Give them credit. You're being honest. At least we know where they stand.
They're always honest, but they're slick. That's a problem with. That's a problem I have with like all these like hardcore leftists, that they're slick. I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm just anti-Zionist. Why do you think not all Jews are Zionists? I have plenty of Jewish friends that are, not Zionists. I believe the Neturei Karta are, and they're Orthodox Jews. So they're like, you see the logic came out, you see the concept, you see the thought process. So like, no matter what they say or do, it just doesn't matter. It's the new hidden but open anti-Semitism. Like the Super Bowl ad that came out for Stop Jew Hate. It was called End Jew Hate. And it literally was like a 15-second ad. So that's like the cheapest ad, ironically. That's the cheapest ad there could be for the Super Bowl. It's a 15-second ad. And then there was all this hate and anti-Semitism talking about Israel and all that stuff. And Israel wasn't mentioned at all in the ad. As a matter of fact, it was also trying to be like, don't be Islamophobic, don't be, racist. Oh, and by the way, don't be anti-Semitic. Like, I love the fact that Jews, even at like their dire point of like, hey, we need to talk about this, we have to include everyone else. And then we still get blamed as if we don't include anyone else. We're still isolationists. I can't wait for the day when Jews stop pussyfooting around and stop being ashamed of who they are and stop trying to placate to everyone else because they think that's the safe thing to do. It drives me up the wall, and I can't wait for the whole thing to just like turn over. That's why on some part of me got really happy when all these leftist Jews realized that all their allies were not allies.
Right.
Like, it doesn't matter how nice you go. It doesn't matter how great you are. It doesn't matter how much money you donate to BLM. The Chicago chapter will still post a picture of the paratroopers. What was it? It was the paratrooper. It was the
guys from the
gliders. The gliders with the Palestinian flag right after October 7th. No matter how much you donate to them and care about the cause, it doesn't mean anything. It's all a bunch of hooey. Doesn't matter. You're lying to yourself and lying to others. But whatever. It is what it is. Nothing. You can't convince them. They're going to convince themselves.
Well, there've been quite a few. I've heard some speeches from, especially this one young Jewish woman who was a big leftist. She was a member she was in the BLM movement, and all like the whole 9 yards. And she said, "Wow," she said she got a real, how's it called? Not awakening, a reality check.
Yeah.
When she saw all her liberal friends and all these liberal organizations that she was a member of just turn on her.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how nice you are. Doesn't matter how polite you are. It doesn't matter at all.
Me too. And I heard a lot of them said like, me too, unless you're a Jew.
Thank you for listening to Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. Please comment and subscribe on our Facebook page, YouTube channel, and Instagram. I would greatly appreciate it, and my mother would too.